in the parking lot of your school or your company? Would you give up your seat on the bus or a train for somebody who is not your friend? How about somebody you don't like? Maybe a people group you don't like. Would you let people call you stupid or a coward? Isn't that the reason why most school fights begin? Would you serve them if they came to your restaurant? What would motivate you to do positive or righteous things for the people that you don't like? Would a command from God be enough? Would somebody have to put a gun to your head for you to do it? Did Jesus ever put a gun to anybody's head to do something that was good or practice righteousness? Did he force anybody to do that which they should anyway? So how does Jesus really get people to do things that they don't like to do? There's a lot of things that the disciples, have done that they normally wouldn't have done because Jesus told them to do it. There's a lot of things that your parents, my parents, told us to do that we didn't like. Some of them we did and some of them we didn't. But what really motivated us to do it? A very intriguing beginning of this text, it was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. So just before he leaves, he has to do something. He has to do something very important. Time was getting short, and he has to make an impression. So the timing of it, he was fully aware of, and so he had to get going. And what an opportunity before him. So we understand from Jesus and his life on the planet that everything that he did had timing to it. In other words, it was appropriate for that time. And if you read the book of John, the Gospel of John has timing all over. So it's time for him to do something very, very significant. I mean, it's starting to go higher and higher in terms of the ranking of the importance of what he is doing. Everything is important, but there's a rank. Can there be rank? Yes. We were talking about it this morning. Somebody asked me whether I was prejudiced or not, or was it? Am I a discriminator? And I told him I was. I like women more than I like men. That makes me a discriminator. I like $20 more than I like 10. I like tall better than short. I'm a discriminator. Here in the second half of verse 1, it says, having loved his own who were in the world, he now showed them the full extent of his love, or he loved them to the end. And that statement is now going to illustrate what he did. Verse 2, the evening meal was being served, and the devil had already prompted Judas Iscariot, son of Simon, to betray Jesus. And that is included in here for a reason. So we're going to hold on to that. Just keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to deal with it again. And Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. Now, John is saying this twice. He said it in verse 1, and he said it in verse 2. That he's emphasizing something. And we're going to have to learn from that emphasis. He says he's going back to the Father in verse 1. He says he had come from God and was returning to God. Okay? Now, he had to have this thing in mind. John was emphasizing that this was the case. So, Jesus is going to show the full extent of his love to his disciples. And the way that it's described, we know and you know, this is about the foot washing. And then it's interrupted by this weird verse where it says Judas had already prompted the devil had already prompted Judas to betray Jesus. Okay? That is inserted in there too. Now, this is the pre-Passover dinner. They're having Passover dinner one day early. The reason why they're having Passover on Thursday, when it's supposed to be on Friday, is because on Friday, he's going to be the Passover. So in order to celebrate the Passover with his disciples, they had to do it one night early. He's going to be the sacrificial lamb on the actual day of Passover. So Jesus knew that the Father had put in charge everything under him. And he already knew that he had a relationship with the Father that was eternal. And now, for John to say that, is emphasizing an aspect of his mentality. What was he thinking? What was Jesus thinking in this scenario? Because we're going to get to the part, okay? We're going to get to this part of Jesus washing the feet, but we have to have this build-up, this foundation, in order to understand what he was doing, why he was doing it, and what it really took. So John is laying out for us what we need to know in order to better appreciate what Jesus is doing. Maybe you've had your feet washed by somebody before in your history. Maybe you never have. Maybe you've never washed somebody else's feet. That's an experience for a special time. I hope you get to do it. But just ask the elders to design something. Okay? So in verse 4 it says, So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. Now, in order to appreciate this a little bit more, we have to have a little bit of background. You know that they had sandals, and sandals don't completely cover the feet. They didn't wear socks, per se. So there was no sock, and there's sweaty feet, along with no paved roads. It's just dirt. So there's a lot of dust on it. So by the time they walk all day, and they come home, you have to wash your feet, otherwise you're going to get your house dirty. And no Asian wants his house dirty. That's why you take your shoes off. Okay? Well, that's what they did. They took their shoes off. Now they're walking around bare feet, but their feet are filthy. Not only with the dust, but with the sweat. Okay? So nobody wanted to do it. This is like cleaning the toilet. Nobody wants to clean the toilet. You don't want to get splashed. Yeah, no. I don't want to smell it. Okay? So nobody wants to do that. Well, nobody wanted to wash feet. So what did they do? They hired somebody to stand at the door, and then any guest that would come in, or the owners, whoever came in, he would wash the feet. So they hired the person to do it. And that job didn't pay much. Okay? So who took the jobs? If it didn't pay much, and it was the worst kind of job you could ever have, if you've ever seen the movie or the shows, Dirty Jobs, all kinds of stuff going on there. It was like that, where, the person was trying to clean filth, and, They have to have overalls, so if it's splashing and glasses and all of that stuff. Anyway, nobody wanted the job. So it was the lowliest of tasks. Okay? Now this is the reference that John the Baptist, okay? John the Baptist was referring to when he said, I'm not even worthy to untie his sandals. What was he referring to? He was referring to, I am not worthy to untie Jesus' sandals and wash his feet. He was saying, I don't even qualify for the lowliest of jobs. There are two jobs that people didn't want. And people made fun of, even in jokes. One is prostitution. Nobody wanted to be a prostitute. Okay? The other one was washing the feet of people before they got in the house. Nobody wanted those. It's like, today, trash collecting and, prostitution. That's what we would do. Nobody wants those jobs. That's why trash collecting pays so much. If you want to be a trash collector, you can make a lot of money. Yeah. You can make a good living. Without a college degree, you can make a good living doing that. Right? Well, here, nobody wanted to do that. Why was it so necessary to wash their feet when they ate, especially? Okay? So, they're going to have a meal. The dirty feet is not good. The smell is not good because it mixes with the aroma of the delicious meal. Then you have all kinds of conflicting flavors. You might eat something, but you might smell something else. So you go, what is that? Right? So, it was compounded by the fact that when they ate, they reclined. Okay? So they were lying on their side and eating with their hands. So inevitably, the feet are closer to somebody else's nose. Okay? So that's compounded. So it has to be done. But it was a borrowed room. Remember? This room was borrowed. So go to this and this and this, and somebody will be there, and Jesus sent them over there and said, oh, and the Lord needs it, and they'll say yes, and you go over there and you start making preparations for the Passover. Okay? It was a borrowed room. But the borrowed room didn't come with a servant. They were generous, but they weren't generous enough. The generosity stopped at, no, I'm not going to pay for the guy to wash, anybody's foot that comes in. You can borrow the room, but, you're going to have to figure that one out yourself or hire somebody to do it. They all got in, okay? Well, they got to the building and they're about to walk in, and they're taking their own shoes off. And where's the servant? No servant. Oh, I guess just going to have to walk around in this place, with dirty feet. I'm going to have to eat with dirty feet. Nobody wanted to do it. It didn't occur to them. Right? But they realized that somebody could have done it. Because there it was. Basin and water and a towel. It's just sitting there. All the disciples look at it and go, hey, that's nice. Where's the guy? Nobody there. Oh, I guess we're just going to have to eat with dirty feet. They all come to the conclusion, I'm not going to do it. Here is an opportunity to serve and nobody takes it. Never even occurs to them. Their culture has locked them into thinking, I am never going to do that. So it doesn't even occur to them that they could do that for one another. Do you know the song Do Something? It goes like this. I woke up this morning, saw a world full of trouble now. Thought, how do we ever get so far down? How's it ever going to turn around? So I turned my eyes to heaven. I thought, God, why don't you do something? Well, I just couldn't bear the thought of people living in poverty, children sold into slavery. The thought disgusted me, so I shook my fist at heaven and said, God, why don't you do something? He said, I did. I created you. That's poetry, right? But it makes sense. If not us, then who? If not me, then you? Right now, it's time for us to do something. If not now, then when? Will we ever see an end to all of this pain? It's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. And it keeps going on. I'm so tired of talking about how we are God's hands and feet, but it's easier to say than to be. Live like angels of apathy who tell ourselves, it's all right, somebody else will do something. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of life with no desire. I don't want a flame, I want a fire. I want to be the one who stands up and says, I'm going to do something. We are the salt of the earth. We are a city on a hill. But we're never going to change the world by standing still. If not us, then who? If not me, you. Right now, it's time for us to do something. Because if not now, when? Will we see an end to all this pain? It's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. Very, very philosophically, theologically correct. So, you work tirelessly for your money, you study diligently for your grades, you got a degree, you earned every dollar you got, you built a business, or you're working long hours to be successful. You ask yourself, why should I give it all away? Why shouldn't I enjoy the fruits of my labor? Now, the Lord never says, don't enjoy the fruits of your labor. As a matter of fact, you can't muzzle an ox while it's treading out the grain. Okay? So if you're working, you should eat. Okay? But how difficult is it for us to serve those who should serve us? How difficult is it for us to serve our kids when they should be serving us? Or how difficult should it be that we serve our parents when they should be serving us? I'm going through that same issue right now where I have to raise not 6 kids, but 7. I only have 6. But I recently added another one. Her name is my mother. So she's getting older. Now I have to treat her like a child too. And so I'm thinking, man, why can't she be more responsible? Why can't she remember the dates that I tell her? I tell her I'm coming at 6. She expects me at 5:30. I thought you were coming at 5. No, I told you 6. Mom, you have to start writing things down. Oh, I have to remember to write things down. So, now I have to shift gears to love my mother even more, and now it's like work. Right? I am responsible to take care of my mother, but it's like work. And I was recently complaining, and I'm going, Lord, why does it have to be like this? You know, every time I complain to the Lord, I expect to be rebuked. That's why I do it. Because I want to learn something. I complain to the Lord so that He would go, dude, dude, let me tell you something. Now you know what she had to put up with you for all of your life. And I'm going, I can't wait to do that to my kids. What'd you say? What day? What time? What? I forgot. The disciples are the ones who should be serving Jesus, but they don't wash Jesus' feet? Why don't they wash Jesus' feet? Why is it that people are stupid? Right? Compared to your intelligence, you go, man, they're so dumb, they can't do this. I mean, are they on the planet to make your life miserable? I mean, I can't wait to get on, Arthur's nerves with his mom or dad or sibling. Or do you have siblings? Younger? Sister? Brother? Both? Oh, okay. Why did God give me stupid brother and sister? Right? Oh, I know, because he wants me to feel so smart. He wants me to compare my intelligence with them and go, yes, I'm so glad God made me like this. No, he didn't do that. From the beginning, when God created everything, okay? This is actually part of my book, No Greater Love, and it explains why God created everything. One of the main points of the book, of course, is this reality of what did he do by creating things? He created opportunities. Okay? He created opportunities. In other words, he says this in Genesis. He says, he created humanity to take care of the planet. Right? He said, so let us make man so they can do what? Subdue the earth. Take care of the planet. Take care of the plants, the animals, the fish, the birds, everything. So what did he do by creating creation? He created an opportunity. But opportunity for whom? And then at the end, he creates man and woman. And he says, let us make man in our image. And then let them rule, right? So he creates the opportunity, and then he creates the humanity in order to take care of it. To take advantage of the opportunity. Alright? So, if that was the case, then we had to genuinely work, and things have to be wrong. Right? There has to be need. Otherwise, we would just sit there and go, wow, that's a nice tree. It's growing really well. I don't have to do anything. That's a nice flower. I don't have to do anything. Oh, those animals are taking really good care of themselves. No. The river's going the wrong way. The trees are growing that way. That's the way it is. I grow orchids. You need to put a stem. A little twig or some sort of rod. Stick it in there and clamp the stem of flowers that are coming out, because it's going to go out like this and it's going to take over the room. You got to straighten it out so it'll grow straight and nice and, gorgeous. Okay? Well, your kids weren't born like, hey, they do everything. They do everything right. I don't have to be a parent. I don't have to do anything. No. God has given you the opportunity to straighten them out. You understand? Work, things go wrong at work. God has given you the opportunity to straighten it out, to your expertise and get involved. To think. Okay? So, he did that from the beginning. Why did they have stinky feet? Why isn't there a servant? They could be complaining. But why did God do that? God gave these people the opportunity to serve, but they didn't do it. God gave us legitimate opportunities to work, to follow through, to take care of. And we're supposed to do that. He gave the disciples the opportunity to love and take care of their Lord and each other, but they failed. So if you run into somebody who is clueless, what are you going to do? Mock them? If you run into a stupid person, what are you going to do? Feel superior? No. If you run into a poor person, what are you going to do? Say, that's irresponsible. I know how he got there. He was lazy. No. God was giving these disciples the opportunity to serve, and they were supposed to. If you find a sick person in your congregation or among your circle, you take care of them. They busted up the car, or they need a ride, you give them one. Forgot his lunch money, buy lunch for them. Because these are opportunities for us to love, to serve, to take care of. It's not to make your life miserable. Look, there's a guy got beat up in the middle of nowhere, half dead. And this Samaritan is walking by going, oh, look, what a shame. He's all beat up, he's half dead, but I got to go to a meeting. I hope somebody takes care of him. Oh, that's not what he did. After all, he is my enemy. He's a Jew and I'm a Samaritan. When we hate each other's guts. So I might as well just get to my work and hopefully some of his buddies or some of his tribe, some of his own people will come and minister to him. No. There was an opportunity and he took it. Paid for the healing with his own money, promised to take care of any other expenses that might come up. He says, I got to go to the meeting, but I'll come back because I'm paying you to take care. Took him to the hospital, went to his meeting, came back to the hospital. Willing to pay for his enemy's stuff. Healing. That's crazy. So, if you find an opportunity, take it. Is there anything not right with the world? Well, can you do something about it? Is the Lord leading you to do something about it? It's not just to live a happy life, uneventful life. That's not why you were called to be a Christian, to be the sons and daughters of the living God. Somebody having a bad day, it's an opportunity to encourage. But I want you to understand something, because Jesus said these things, or John said these things about Jesus' mindset for a reason. Okay? Because I need to encourage you. Pains, trials, stupidity, sickness, sin, they don't last forever. Okay? It's going to end sometime. So we have to understand the temporary nature of life. In verse 6, he came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you intending to wash my feet? Jesus replied, you do not realize now what I am doing, but later on you will understand. Some of this applies to you right now. Because before you didn't understand this, now you're understanding. No, verse 8, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. And then in verse 9, then Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well. And this little illustration didn't even need to be here. Right? I mean, it didn't even need to be here. All John had to do was, hey, Jesus washed everybody's feet. Was that true? Yes. If the emphasis was only to serve, okay, take the opportunity and serve, then the illustration would have been complete. he would have made his point, we would have understood, and then we could go on. But here's this little stickler situation right here. And he takes verses to explain what happens specifically with Peter. Peter goes, no, you're my Lord. I need to be, no, don't wash my foot. He wasn't volunteering, okay? He didn't even go there. He should have said, Lord, I need to wash your feet. That didn't even come out of his mouth because it was so repulsive to everybody's mindset. And Peter illustrates that. He should have said, Lord, I need to wash your feet. You can't wash mine. He never says that. He says, you are not going to wash my foot, my feet. Why is he saying that? He says, I'm not willing to do it, and I don't want you to do it with me either. Nobody should do this. The lowly of lowlies should do this. But the illustration is there. Okay? Why? Because I know what you guys are thinking. God knows what you're thinking. You start serving like this and you go, somebody's going to take advantage of me. They're going to tell me, yeah, wash my feet, my head, my whole body. Right? Somebody's going to, don't just give me $20. Give me everything. Give me everything you got in your wallet. Give me your car. Give me your house. Give me your children. I'll put good use to them. They'll take care of my property, whatever I have. Right? So that's what Peter says. He says, not just my feet, but my hands, my head, everything. Wash my entire body, please. Because, what was his motivation? Just so that you don't get off on a tangent and misunderstand. What was his motivation? His motivation was in response to Jesus' words. Unless I wash you, you have no part with me. So Peter's motivation is, hey, if that's what it takes, give me all you got. Give me everything. Because I want this relationship with you. It was a positive motivation. It was a noble one. But he's not the one in charge. He's not the manipulator. Okay? It's Jesus who is leading. So he should be following instead of leading. And they want to lead. Don't let people do that. Who should lead in your life? Jesus should lead in your life. So if the Lord leads you to do something specific, don't let somebody else blow that up. You don't have to fear that. I am not going to tell you, I'm not going to get rewarded for this because I told you. If I didn't tell you, then okay. But I'm going to forego the reward and tell you because it's an illustration of life and how the Lord was working in my life. So it's okay. I'll get other rewards and there'll be other opportunities where you don't know about it and the Lord will reward me. That's fine. So I was coming through Baltimore, downtown, and I got the prompting that I needed to give somebody some money. A poor person. Okay? So it's much better that the Lord lead me to somebody than for somebody to cry out and then I have to respond. Okay? I like those better, even though both should occur. Okay? So I thought, who? So I'm driving and turning, and I see this guy walking with his probably everything that he owns. Okay? And a cane. And a stick. Anyway, so he's over and I turned and I said, oh, is that the guy? All right. So I fortunately the light was red. I pulled up to the guy and I go, come here. So I pointed, he comes over and I gave him $10. Okay? I was showing him. And he goes, you don't know how much I needed this. And he was just completely floored that somebody gave him money. And I'm going, because I pulled out the 10. I had a 20 in there. As I was driving, I said, I should have given him that too. Or maybe I should have just given him, man, right? I made the guy's day, and I could have even, but maybe he only needed 10. Or maybe that was the perfect amount. I don't know. Okay? So I'm just taking guessing out. Lord, man. I have partial regret, partial encouragement, and I'm going, man, I need to be more sensitive to the Holy Spirit. Who knows how He's leading? And maybe I'm blocking Him out, or maybe I'm just not hearing it. But he didn't turn around. I wasn't afraid of, hey, is that all? Don't you have anything else in your wallet? Peter, wash my hands, my head, everything. Give me everything. Empty your wallet. Give me a credit card. That's what Peter did. But Jesus was in control. So had he done that, I said, hey man, I was only led to give you this. Okay? So maybe next time. And Jesus was straightening him out, and he is telling us and showing us, look, just be obedient to me. That's all you're required to do. You don't have to fear this. And Jesus straightened him out. Says Jesus answered, a person who has had a bath needs only to wash his feet. His whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you. So the follow-up to this is, straighten Peter's mindset out, but mention somebody else too. This is a second mention. For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said, not every one of you was clean. This is messed up. This is really messed up. Because the emphasis here is supposed to lead us to the conclusion. Okay, there was Judas. He's a betrayer. Jesus knew that he was going to betray. Right? It hasn't happened yet, but he knew he was going to do it. So, if I were Jesus, I would go John, Matthew, and then ultimately Peter, and then Judas I'll skip, and I go to Bartholomew. I would serve everybody else because I knew this guy, he's going to betray me. I'm not going to wash his feet. Hey, he can be dirty, and that could be a symbol. I mean, it could be representative of who he is. He's just a dirty person, and he's going to stay dirty, and I'm not going to wash it. So he washes the feet of the 11. He stopped at Judas and side and then went on. Right? Isn't that what it says? No, that's not what it says. It says he washed every one of the disciples' feet. When he got to Judas' feet, he washed it. How could he wash the feet of his potential enemy? How could he do that in a loving way? Did he do it with gritted teeth and grudge and, ooh, man, I can't wait to get on you, man. I hope you burn in hell. No, he washed his feet too. Afterwards, he says, when he had finished washing everybody's feet, just 12, he put on his clothes, and he returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. What's the expected answer? No. Definitely not. No. Mm-mm. We haven't the faintest idea what you have done for us, because we would never do that. All of them are shaking their heads. No rabbi is going to wash the feet of his students. Okay? So let me explain it to you, he says. You call me teacher and Lord. And absolutely, that's right. So, let me tell you. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. And all the disciples are going, over my dead body. Right here they're saying, over my dead body. Okay? I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. That's the kicker. Now the struggle of, no, I'll never do that, to, my Lord did that to me. Now what's going to drive me? My Lord's example is going to drive me. You tell your kids whatever, but if you don't set an example for them, guess what? It's not very motivating. Even if they totally resist your words, they will not resist your actions. It's impossible. See, the most powerful way to influence is being an example. Our leader has modeled it. So, whenever we have a challenge in front of us, the image is going to come up. Oh. See, the disciples, and whenever there's a challenge in front of them to serve, the image is going to come up. Jesus, washed my feet. He asked me to do the same thing. How could I not? And there's going to be a struggle if you are not willing. Because the example is going to be overwhelming. It's going to be overwhelming. But there's another example that you have to keep in mind, and that is, or reality that you have to keep in mind. Not only has he commanded it, not only has he set an example, but you also have to understand this is Jesus. It's temporary. It's not going to be forever. So are you going to wash the feet of your dirty friends all the time, forever? No. No. You're going to go back to your old position as the sons and daughters of the living God, as prince and princesses, because that's who you are. Jesus, why was he able to do this? He knew where he came from, it says, and he knew that he was going to go back. He's going to sit right back on the right hand of God, on the throne room of God, and he's going to be, again, master of the universe, King of kings and Lord of lords. This is temporary. I can do this temporarily. A little illustration, undercover boss. Have you ever seen that? Where the guys who own the companies go to work for their own companies, whatever menial task it is, no matter how difficult it is, they become the employees and somebody else is telling them what to do, training them and all that stuff. They do that because they want to get to know how the companies run and what kind of people are working for them. Maybe they change the look and, have to have makeup so that they don't get recognized, but that's what they do. And then after that, it's a revelation to them. But why are they willing to do that? Because they know that it's temporary. It's only going to be for a short time, and they can go back to their posh office and start dictating how the company is run again. It's temporary. I'm not going to be serving my mom for another 100 years. She's 77. She doesn't have that many years left. And to the best of my ability, I got to serve my mother until she departs. And so the motivation is the obedience to the Lord, the example of his character and his actions, and the reality that it is temporary. What are you unwilling to do? What are you unwilling to do? Jesus overwhelms us with his example. And so you and I have to be willing to do anything. Knowing that he commands us, and it's temporary, but especially because he set an example for us. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much that you are not calling us to do something forever. We can only do it while we are on planet Earth. It's temporary. But even if it's the lowliest, the bottom of the totem pole task, we do it because Jesus did it. He set an example for us. He commands us to do it because we understand that it's temporary. Father, help us to take every opportunity that you have, follow your leadership, and serve wholeheartedly because you have set an example to us through your Son. May our actions, may our response to the Lord also be as impactful as His was to us. We pray.